This conference will now be recorded.
So before starting today, so any questions, anyone so far? Okay. So yesterday night we started understanding so how we can define the memory statements. So high level, the purpose is when the program started executing, when the program is in the process of executing. So that time to hold the data temporarily, the memory should be allocated. So that we do using memory statement. So for that we define the variables, right? So these are the variables, data type and some variable name, which will hold that type of data. So we executed this and we know at high level how it works. In Salesforce, once you log into Salesforce, so in order to execute the Apex code quickly, okay, so we need to go to developer console, click on gear icon and click on developer console. Within the developer console, so we can click on debug and open execute anonymous window, and here we can execute and see the results in the logs. Okay, so just today let's see how exactly we deal with this. Already we discussed about this arithmetic, so some of the examples. So we have arithmetic assignment operator. So what is the purpose of this one, right? So let's say we have, right, integer, okay, let's say is equal to, so I'm saying, let's say like this, right? So now I want to increase that one by 6. Okay, so what we do is equal to is plus whatever the number one, right? So that the finally, if you print that one, you see the age value as 30. Okay, so now the thing is how people write this is plus equal to 6. This also gives the same meaning. Exactly whatever happens with this, same thing will happen with this. So this is like some kind of shortcut, right? Internally, the meaning of this one is age is equal to age plus 6, right? Combination of arithmetic and assignment. In place of plus, you can also use minus, star, right? Slash for division, right? So that's the arithmetic assignment. Okay, so let's maybe execute and see how it works. Let's say is in general age is equal to age plus 6 or whatever the number that I am just giving like this. Okay, so internally the meaning of that is age is equal to age plus 6. That's the meaning. Okay, when you write the code, right, in the comment, if you want to keep something, okay, so we use // and after that whatever I type, system won't execute that. System treat that one as a comment. You can type whatever you want. Here, for our understanding sake, internally that is nothing but age is equal to age plus 6. Okay, this is a comment. Means you can type anything, system won't treat that one as a code. Treat that some comment as a developer to understand we are keeping. Okay. Yeah. So now if you see, I mean, it without that it will work. Just for our sake, I am adding. Anyway, now execute and see. Sorry, we need to print that is execute and click on debug only. And if you see 30, right? Okay, in place of right plus, you can also, if you want, minus. The meaning is age is equal to age minus 6, right? 24 minus 6, 18. Okay, so like that. So just understand that's the example of the internally the meaning is is equal to is minus 6. So that's about the arithmetic assignment operator. Okay. The next one is about the relational operator. So we use these relational operators for the comparison, right? The outcome of the comparison is either true or false, right? So let's say if you want to compare two numbers or two strings or whatever you want, double equal to. Single equal to is for assignment. Double equal to is for the comparison. If you want to compare, we use double equal to. Okay, so just understand that one. Okay. So now not equal to, right? So not equal to we can also represent like this. Either this one or this one, right? Any one you can use, either this one you can use, this one you can use. Both represent not equal to, right? And less than, right? And less than equal to, greater than equal to. So all these are the different relational operators. The outcome of the relational operator will be either true or false. Okay, so let's understand by using some of these things. Okay, so for us, right, here I'm taking number 1. So let's say 24. Number 2, 100. Right. So I want to compare. Is number 1 is equal to number 2? Both are same? No, right? No means false. If both are same means it returns true. Right? When you execute now, since both are not same, it gives false. Right? Execute. False, right? So like that. In case if both are same, it returns true. Right? In the same way we have, right, comparisons. So not equal to is this. Yes, both are not equal. This returns true. Right? So less than, greater than, right? All those kind of things based on the need you can use. Okay, now let me execute. This gives false. This gives true because both are not equal to. Yes, both are not equal. True. Is number 1 is less than equal to number 2? Yes. 24 is less than 100, right? This also returns true. Only first one is false and the remaining 2 true. Execute like that. Okay, so for this purpose we use this relational operators. Okay, so very straightforward. So now the thing is, these relational operators are dealing with only one condition at a time, right? So I want to combine two conditions. We have a requirement, condition 1 and condition 2 and condition 3, like that, right? When you have a situation to deal with the multiple conditions, we deal with the logical operators, right? So when you say multiple conditions, you want AND or 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 not. So those things we decide with the logical operator. We have AND, we have OR, we have not, right? So AND is this. Okay, I mean, in Apex programming language, directly we cannot use AND. So we use this symbol for AND. Okay, in the same way, for OR, we use this, right? For not, we use this, right? Not. And exclamatory is for not. Okay, so these are the logical operators. So let's use and understand how it works. Okay, let's say here, so all I want, number 1 should not be equal to number 2, and the number 1 should be less than equal to number 2. I want end, and number 1 is less than equal to number 2, right? So now it is true, right? Both are true, right? End means when you say end, both conditions are true, then finally the result is true. If any one of the condition is false, the final result will be false, right? Now when you see the result of this one, so what do you think? It returns true or false? So anyone? Let 24 not equal to 100s and 24 less than 100, right?
True.
Finally it becomes true. Okay, so when you execute, the second value should be true, right? That is happening. So exactly like a matrix, if you want to see, right? So we have like some kind of table, right? So let's say condition 1, condition 2. If any one of the condition is false, the final result will be false. So we can deal with such kind of metrics. Okay, maybe to show you quickly. Okay, so assume that we have A is one condition, B is one condition, right? So when you are separating A condition and B condition with AND, right? So what is the outcome, right? When you say OR, when you combine both conditions with OR, how it works. When you say not of a particular condition, that is like reverse. Okay, so just we are trying to keep some the possible combinations, right? I'll say true and all different combinations, right? Now if you see all possible combinations, end means if both are true, right? If any one is false, right, the final result will be false. Only if both are true, this becomes true. In all other situations, it will be false. That is end. So R means any one of the condition is true, the final result will be true. It should find true either A or B in any one of the condition. Right? Only the situation it becomes false is everything is false. Both are false, then false. Right? Otherwise, if either any one of that is true, it will be true. So that's how R will work. Right? Not means reverse. True means false. False means true. Like that. Right? So these are the different combinations. Okay, so just so understand this. Okay, maybe I'm only dealing with the two conditions. It can be A and B or C, right? But as soon as you know this, all other things you can easily understand. Okay, so that's about that part. This logical operators, how this will work. I think this I cannot paste here. No, it's pasting, but moving this to. Okay, so this is the table just for the reference, and this is one of the example. Okay, so that is about the logical operator. Okay, so any questions, anyone? Yes, so just straightforward. So now these relational operators, logical operators, these things we use for the conditional statements, right? Conditional statement means, so when you write some statement, it's not that always you want to execute that statement. Sorry, you want to execute the statements, some of the statements based on the conditions. If the condition is satisfied, then only you want to execute. If the condition is not satisfied, you don't want to execute. Right? When you have such kind of situations, so that time we go with these conditional statements. Right? So let's. So there are different flavors of the conditional statements. So one of the famous one is if. Okay, so we also have switch when. So different options. Mostly all possible scenarios we can achieve with the if and the flavors of the if condition. So to avoid confusion, so we deal with the if conditions. The other things, whatever supported switch when, those things we discuss little later. Okay. So now for if, there are different flavors of if. So people say simple if, right? Means just so how we give. So maybe let me take one example here, right? If, right, we give some condition, right? If that condition is true, so what we want to execute, right? So that we keep here, right? For now, I'll just say inside if condition, that is what I'm printing just in the log. Okay, if this condition is satisfied, then you'll see it will print this one. If the condition is not satisfied, you don't see it is printing this, right? So now we know that this is true. So when I execute, you'll see this. Okay, execute. We see inside if condition, it's satisfied, right? Let's say I'm giving like this. So I know that it fails. 24 is equal to 100. No, false. False and 24 is less than 100 is true. False and true is false, right? Because it is end. It won't enter, right? If I execute, you don't see it is printing this. The meaning is it is not executing this statement. That's why it cannot print that, right? So that is if. So this is the example of the if, right? Sometimes let's say if is not satisfied, whatever condition we are checking is not satisfied, and it won't execute any number of statements. Maybe here only one statement, it can be 100 statements, right? None of those statements inside this if condition will be executed if the condition is not satisfied. But if condition is not satisfied, and if you want to execute the other set of statements, so that time we use else. Okay, that we call as if else, right? How that works? If condition is not satisfied, it should enter into else, and now here you can give, right? System.debug like this. Okay, I'm just printing like this. Okay, it can be any number of statements. So now we know that this is not satisfied. It won't execute. Since it is not satisfied, it will enter into this else. And whatever the statements present in that, those things it execute, right? So I mean, when you have multiple statements, right, we need to use this curly bracket and keep all the set of statements inside that. Okay. And also if you observe, right, so whenever we use that curly bracket, so we should not keep all lines the code like this. People cannot understand. So whenever you use any bracket like this, again, this is not mandatory. This is indentation, right, to make it looking good. So always it's better to give tab space, right? This one inside that I'm writing a statement. So for the sake of understanding easily, press tab, so that tab space, right? In the same way, this is inside that, and so we need to follow that. Okay, so maybe in starting stage, if you try to practice like this by keeping everything not in a well proper format, it won't be good, right? So start with making in a better way, right? So maybe here in this place, if you press again shift to tab, it will auto align, but it's always better to maintain. Okay, so this is the example for if else, right? So the next thing is, so else if. So what is that else if? Let's say this condition is not satisfied, right? Or maybe if it is satisfied, it execute. I want to check one more condition, right? Else if I'm checking one more, right? So here, so I'm checking is number 1 is less than 20, right? So just print something, right, inside first else if, something like this. I'm checking one more, right? So number 1 is less than 50, like this I'm giving, right? So now how this else if works, so don't think that, right? So let's say I'm giving like this, right? So now this is failed. I know number 1 is equal to number 2. No, it fails. Comes here. 24 is less than 30. Yes, right? It execute. And this 24 less than 50. That is also correct. This will also execute or not. That's the confusion when we start newly, right? So we think that it will also execute. That is wrong. Okay. The thing is, when we deal with the else if, else if, finally else, any one of the block, whichever satisfy first, that it execute, right? So if this is satisfied, if it executes, it ignore executing all this remaining. Only if this fails, it will check this. Is it satisfied? 24 less than 30, yes. This, it execute this, and it will won't go and execute this. It will stop checking these things because it is already entered here. So that is how else if will work, right? So this won't execute even though it is satisfied because it won't check. It will stop checking as soon as one of this block is satisfied. Okay, that's the else if. Okay, so just understand now. We see this part is printing in the log if we execute. Inside first else if condition. So like that, right? So this is the example for that. Okay, so now my requirement is, so this is satisfied, it is executing. If this is satisfied, this also it should execute. So I don't want it to stop. If it is satisfied, it should not ignore the next one. I want this also to execute, right? If you want like that, so don't use this else if, right? Don't use this, right? Maybe this else is like, it's not like for everything. It is only for this if condition else. This I'm just doing. Okay, so it's like it will check if that is satisfied or not. It will still check this. If this is satisfied or not, it won't bother about that. Again, it will check this. So this we call as IfSeries. Okay, so now if I execute, you see it is printing this one and also this one, right? Maybe this is like yeah, for our understanding. Yeah, now if you execute, if you see both are executed, so it's all based on requirement. So how you want the logic? You want to check everything, then go with IfSeries. You don't want to check everything, any one, this one. If this is satisfied, you want to ignore remaining, we need to go with else if. Okay, so it's like that, just understand. Okay, the next one is, right? So if series is the one. Okay, the next thing is nested if, right? Nested if means inside if condition keeping one more, right? If inside that again I'm keeping one condition, this, right? If you see inside this, we added inside that again one block, again one tab space. So like that we have to follow. Okay, now first this should be satisfied. Once it enters inside, again it will check this condition. If that is also satisfied, then it execute, right? So in this situation, both are satisfying. See, it print both. Right? So this example is a nested if. Right? So these are the different flavors based on the need. We can make use of like this. Yeah, so that's about this conditional statements. We have one more type called switch when. For now, I am not explaining to avoid more confusion. So this is sufficient while dealing conditionally. Okay. So any questions on understanding before we understand next type, controlling or looping statements? So no questions. Okay. The next category is the controlling or looping statements. Means sometimes we want to execute the same set of statements again and again, 10 times, 100 times, 1000 times, based on the logic, based on the requirement. We might have a situation to execute the logic repeatedly multiple times. So that time we go with the looping statements. Okay, so there are many types of loops. Okay, so one is we have while loop, the other one do while, the other one for loop. There are different flavors of for loop. Most of the times we use for. Okay, so one is index based for loop. The other one is for each loop. I'll give example for each of these things, but in general, this is what we use most of the times. Okay, but still we should know. So while and do while and what is the syntax and how it works. Okay, so let me take one example for while loop. Let's say you want to execute one statement 10 times, right? Just for our example. Okay, so using while. So how we deal with that, right? So I'm just saying integer. So in general, right, while dealing with the loops, while dealing with the counting of those numbers, you see people using I, right? Let's say inside that again one more loop, people use J, one more inner loop, K, like that, right? So it is just a programming standard. You can give anything, but for loopings, these are the things very famous. Okay, so we also follow the same thing so that whenever you see somewhere, it will be easy for us. Okay, so I inner loop, maybe J, K, like that. We give the names for the looping. Okay, so now I'm just giving I equal to 0. Initially, the value of the I is 0. Okay, so I want this one to repeat 10 times until 10. Until I is 10, I want to execute one statement at while. So inside the while, right, this part is like initialization, right? This is like in the comment. We are initializing that loop variable as 0 by default. Inside that we give the condition. This place is for condition, right? So I'm just giving condition until I value is less than 10, right? Until I value is less than 10, keep on, it will enter inside this and execute, right? So I'm just printing that I value. Okay, now if you execute, it is very, very dangerous. Right now, what happens? I equal to 0, 0 less than 10, it will print 0. Again, it will check 0 less than 10. There is never ending. There is no ending for this, right? So if we execute, it becomes like infinite. That condition will never fail. But Salesforce cannot execute this forever, right? So Salesforce is having some limits, right? So Salesforce is a multi-tenant environment because the client, whoever is using Salesforce CRM, they share the server allocated by Salesforce is maybe the same server might be used by other clients. Okay, it's like that. I mean, so nothing is unlimited when you work with the Salesforce platform. For everything, there is a upper limit, right? So even if you see, right, so this is one of the governor limit. Okay, system dot limit exception. Apex CPU time exceeded. Right? That's the error you are seeing. Okay, so when you open that log, right, just let me show you that log. If you see how much size of the log, 19.04 MB. If you see the other logs, 3.01 KB, right? You see how many times it executed, right? So finally, due to the time, right? So the amount of time the code can execute, for that there is a maximum limit. So due to that, you see it is not, right? Let me almost go to ending, and if you see here, maximum CPU time. So actually, I think 10,000 is like 10,000 milliseconds. 10,000 milliseconds. I mean, sorry, milliseconds is like 10 seconds, right? But I think they allowed until 15 seconds. So finally, right? So it is throwing the error. Yeah, these limits are there. Okay, so I mean, we should be careful while writing the code. Okay, just I'm trying to explain that. Okay, now to avoid that, so here this place is for increment or decrement based on the need. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll increment the I value by 1, right? I plus plus, right? Unary operator. It increment the I value by 1 whenever it execute. So now what will happen? I value is 0, 0 less than 10, it will print 0. Here it becomes as 1, 1 less than 10, it print 1. Again, it becomes 2, 2 less than 10. Once I becomes 10, 10 less than 10 fails, right? So that means only until 9, 0 to 9, it will print. Okay, so let's execute, right? Now it's not forever, only 10 times. Each time the I value is different. This it is printing from 0 to 9, total 10 times. Okay, so that is how we deal with the while loop. Okay, so these are just to understand the syntax. So the actual thing, when we deal with the requirement, we know how we use these loops properly. Okay, this is an example. I'm just keeping here. So any questions, let me know. The next one is do while. That do while is similar to while, right? So let me show you. If I first we use do, and then we give the condition. Only that's the difference. Okay. Now if I execute this one, you don't see any difference. So I 0, 0, it will print increment by 1 is 1 less than 10 is again 1, 2, 2 less than 10 again. You see exactly the same result. Then what is the difference?
Actually, in a while loop, first it will stage the condition, then only it will enter in the loop, body of loop. And
Yeah.
though if condition is false, then it won't enter into the body of loop. But it will do while if condition becomes false, still it execute the code one time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So now, when exactly you see the difference, I think you can go on mute. We are getting some disturbance. Okay. So the thing is, you see the difference when the condition is not at all meeting, right? So let's say here I am giving if I is less than 0, right? That one. So now the thing is I equal to 0, it will print 0, increment by 1, 1 less than 0, it fails. The thing is whether the condition is satisfied or not satisfied, it is guaranteed to execute all the statements of this loop for one time. Irrespective of the condition satisfied or not, if you have a requirement to execute the statements at least for one time, then we go with the do while loop. Right now, if I execute, even though the condition is not satisfied at least one time, still you are seeing that printing 0, right? So same thing, if I move this one to here, right? It won't execute. First it is checking 0 less than 0, no, it cannot enter, right? None of the times this will execute. Okay, so do while will be useful even though the condition is not satisfied. If you want to execute all the statements for one time, in those kind of situations, okay, we need to go with the do while loop. Okay, so that's about that. Okay, so I think this is the example for do while. I'm keeping here. Okay, so the next one, for loop, the index based for loop. So how this will work? Okay, so for that, the initialization, right? Initialization, condition, increment or decrement, right? Everything here only. Okay, so here's some logic. Right? Yeah, but I don't want this is only for our. I'm just commenting that. Okay. So in reality, initialization means the looping variable. Saying integer I equal to 0. I less than, this time I want to execute 20 times. You want to increment or decrement? Increment. So when we use decrement, I want in a reverse. Right? Let's say it should start from 20 and until it becomes 0. Right? So until I less than I greater than 0. Right? We have to decrement. Right? If you increment, again, it is a problem. Right? This condition will never fail. To make this fail, it should decrement. Right? So initially I value is 0. So first I value 0, then it will check is, sorry, I value 20 and I check 20 greater than 0. Yes, it enters inside. So let's say we are printing that one. Okay, after printing, it will check this. It will decrement that value 19, and after that it will check 19 greater than 0. Yes, print it again, decrement, right? So like that. So it will go somehow like that, right? So this part, and after that this part, and after that it will execute this. Next it will check this one. Next it will check this. If that is satisfied, it will again execute. Right. So this will be repeated until it fails. So that's what it will do. Okay. So now let's execute and see. Right. You see from 20 to 1 total 20 values, 20, 19, 18 until 1. So we're seeing, right? This is a index based for loop. Okay, this is syntax of that. Okay, so just understand, this is what we use most of the times. Even when compared to this, the for each loop is also like even more times we use once we start working for the application requirements. Okay, so what is this for each loop? So the difference is, so going forward, we have a concept called collections. Okay, so far whatever the integer or whatever the string or whatever we define can hold only single value. The collections concept, so when we reach there we discuss how, if you want to store multiple values of the same type, so we have list, set, and map some collections. Okay, I mean for now, so we need some time to discuss those topics. I'm just going to define one collection, but you don't bother about the syntax for now. So later in detail we understand. Okay, for the sake of demo, okay, I'm just defining a collection. Okay, for now, so don't worry about the syntax. Okay, integer and so list numbers. Right, some name I'm giving. Okay, this syntax. So for now, no need to bother about this. We'll discuss going forward. Okay, so I'm just keeping some set of values, some multiple values. So now this collection, the list of integer is having 4 values. So how the for each loop works, right? When you say for each, it's not like we use for each, right? Still it is for only. So here right side, so whatever the name of the collection is there, that one. This is the name of the collection. So left side, what is the type? What is the data type of this collection? Integer. We separate both with colon. Now integer, and we need to give some name temporarily. I'm just giving yes, no, right? So the meaning is what happens. This is nothing but it's having 4 values. So what it will do, each time one value it will take, right? So when it take the one value, for that value to refer that value, what is the name you want to give? That's what we are giving here, right? When this starts, total it is having 4 values. First time it take the first value, right? Let's print it, right? First time it is 200, it will print that one. Next time from that collection it take 400 and print it. 700 printed, 500 printed. After 500 nothing is there, it will stop the loop. That is how it works. So this type of loop we call as for each loop. While calling we say for each, but it's not like, right, we use something like this. Okay, so just understand, now I'm executing this code and debug only, and if you see we have 200, 400, 700, 500. So all these values are there, right? So all those values are there. It is taking each and every value and it is printed. So this is the for each loop example. 80 to 90%, this is what we use when we start working. Okay, this is syntax. Okay, with this we are done with this loops concept. So any questions on understanding? So I recommend you to practice. Then only, like, sometimes when you watch, it looks like it is okay and you can write, but when you start typing and writing the logic, so then you see the real things. So start typing and practice. In initial phase, you see many errors, but once you know how it works, it will be easy. Okay, so that's about this. The next type, input or output statements. So mainly to deal with these things, so we should have some web page developed, like some user interface. Then there we use these things more. So for now, right, so when you define some variables, right, so when we connect that Apex class, I mean the Apex code, whatever we are developing with a page, so the variable we want to allow the input from the web page to store, or if you have a variable with some value, do you want to allow that variable value to show on the UI? To decide that, we have some keywords. Okay, for now, blindly, right? In some places we use get. Get is like output. If you want to show your variable or some output on the UI, so that time we use get. Okay, it's like output. Right? Set is input from UI. Let's say you are entering something and should set into a variable. So that time, right? Just for now, just remember like this. Exactly when we reach there, that time you understand clearly how exactly these things will work. Okay, so that's it. These are the different types of statements. On day-to-day, when we deal with the programs, you see these types of statements. Okay, so now let me show you some programs and see whether we are able to recognize which statement is for which purpose. And after that, we'll see really how we write the program, right? So program will be having a structure, right? How the program should start, how it should end. That is our next topic, okay? So before we discuss that, so let me open some programs and just in my one of the website. There are some simple programs. Okay, I'm just opening this. And this is one program. So for now, still we don't know what is this. That's our next topic. We'll discuss. Okay, just a focus on the inside part. Maybe this is not a good example. Maybe let's see this one, right? Inside that, if you see this statement, so what is this? They are allocating the memory of type string, right? This is the variable. As a default value, this is the value they are storing. And also there are some integer type of variables, some default values assigned into those variables. And if you see, this is a for loop, index based for loop. Integer I equal to 0, I less than num. So what is this num? They enter some number, maybe 10, 20. I'll explain this, how exactly that works. That's our next topic. Okay, so when they say 10, it's like 10 times. All these statements will execute. So here what they are doing, they are adding these two numbers and assigning to next number. And again, they are flipping the numbers, right? And again, they are, if you see the arithmetic assignment operator, they are using combining, right? So if you see, this is a memory statement. This is looping statement. These are arithmetic operators, right? Assignment. arithmetic assignment, right? So the next example here, right? Here there is a Boolean data type and checking a if condition equal to or, right? Logical operator. And one more condition. If any one of the condition is true, this will execute, right? The conditional statements. Okay, if you see, when you see any program, right? Here again, they are doing some calculations, they are printing. So that means we are able to recognize, right? At least which statement is for which purpose. Now, the problem is, so on top of this, what is this? What is this? So how exactly we write a program, right? When we write a program, there is a syntax. So what should be the first line and all those things. So that's our next topic called the OOPS concept. Okay, the OOPS concepts, object-oriented programming concepts. So before we start with that, so far, so any questions on understanding these basics? Object-oriented programming concepts, Java, .NET, so C++, all those languages are based on the OOPS concepts. Right? Salesforce Apex language is also based on the OOPS concepts, object-oriented programming concepts. Okay, so there are different concepts as part of the object-oriented programming. So one is, right, we see some new terminology. Without knowing these also, people work, people write program, and everything will happen, right? But if you know, it's better. I'll list out and we'll see which fall under encapsulation and what exactly is the abstraction, so what exactly is the polymorphism, and also the inheritance, all these things, right? So I mean, any questions? Just, are you able to follow?
Yes, Srinu.
So someone is asking when we use triple equal to. So in Apex, when you don't use triple equal to, so mostly triple equal to is in JavaScript and all you use. Yeah, I think Apex, very rare. I don't know whether it supports or not. You can have to check here. Let me quickly check that. Right, one side it is number, one side I'm taking as a string. Execute. Triple equal to is not supported. Okay. So in general, right, we have JavaScript. JavaScript execute within the browser. And if I show now, for sure you will confuse, right? Still I'm showing. This is the area where you see JavaScript. Okay, so it supports. The meaning is including data type, even though both numbers are same. The left one is an integer and the right one is a string. That's why it is false. Right? Double equal to means it won't check, it won't care about the data type. Both are same or not. True. So it's like that. But that is not related to Apex. Okay. Yeah. So now get back to Apex. So these are the concepts. So before we understand this, right? So we write the program, right? So in general, what are the main parts in the program? What exactly we need? So any program you take, so it needs to hold some data. On that data, some logic should be applied, and it should give the result. Right? The program will have data. Right? On that data, some instructions will be applied. Right? So what is the example of the data? Right? So let's say integer number 1 is equal to 100, number 2 is equal to 500. That's the data. So what is the instruction? Right? So what you want to do with those two numbers? Do you want to add? Do you want to subtract? Do you want to multiply, or you want to divide? Right? So for each thing is a different logic. Right? So maybe if you want to add, all we need is like this, right? And maybe you just define some result and store into that. But so how I say add, right? So if you keep one more statement and this one, so when it will add, when it will, right? So each should be moved as some reusable unit. So each part should have different name for that, right? Each thing should be a separate instruction, right? So for that we have a concept called methods. Okay, so here instruction, nothing but we call as methods. Okay, this data, these are nothing but the variables we define. Okay, so I mean syntax I'll show you, right? Just to show you quickly, this should be one method, right? Subtract method, so that we can command, right, which you want add or subtract. So at high level, the purpose of the program, so we will have some data and we supply some instructions based on that logic it execute and gives the result. Okay, so all these are elements in a program, the variables and methods, all this. Okay, so exact syntax, once we understand these concepts, we'll see. Okay, now just that's the base, right? The skeleton part of the program. So now the encapsulation. What is this encapsulation? So encapsulation, right? The definition is, so using encapsulation, it binds the elements in a program together. Means it keep the elements, different elements in a program together. The data, right? Means variables, the methods, the instructions, everything should wrap into one program, right? That program structure will be defined using this encapsulation, right? The definition is, it binds the elements in a program. Element means it can be a variable or it can be a method. So all those things. So how it binds, how it keep together, right? So we have a concept called class or interface. Okay, so what is this class? Okay, so class is, right, so that nothing but the one program is like one class, right? Inside the class only trap all the variables and methods and other elements into one unit. Okay, so now on day to day to understand the class easily. So class is, it's a plan, right? It is a plan. So what is the example? So how exactly we need to understand. So if you think about the real world things what we deal on day to day, right? So let's take a building, right? So let's say you want to have a building, right? So one building needs to be constructed. So what is the first phase of constructing a building? The plan, right? How many floors you want, each floor. So how many bedrooms? Maybe 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, or so how you want. That is defined in a plan, right? The engineer will give the plan, right? How it should be, right? So when you say a plan, right? When you have the plan, right? Plan is like the picture in a paper, right? On the paper we have the plan. So with that, the building won't be there, right? Someone should follow that plan and construct the building. So to construct the building, what is needed? The objects, right? So the material is needed for the building. Using that, it should be constructed so that there will be a physical existence of a building, right? So class is also like, so class is like the building plan on the paper. Okay, so unless you create the object, right? Unless the building is constructed, so really nothing will be there. Once the building is constructed, then you can enter into that. If there is a lift, you can operate the lift, and you can make use of other whatever is there as part of that building. In the same way, so we write the class. It's like when you are writing a class, the meaning is you are planning. So what should happen, right? So mostly we deal with some data. When some data is given, with that data, what should happen, all that plan we do. Okay, so how exactly that plan will be executed and you will see the result? Object. So we need to create the object. I'll show you how the object can be created, right? So once the object is created, nothing will happen, right? Someone should instruct, right? So when you have building, you have to go and operate. You have to open the door, close the door, or whatever. So we create the object, and through object we do some of the instructions, actions, right? And it's not like whatever is there as part of that object, only that we do, right? So let's say in our building, lift is not there, you cannot do anything, right? If it is there, you operate that. So it's like that. So like that, we need to understand, right? So this is like exactly the same thing. Here we automate using the program, right? So like that, there are many examples, right? So let's say long back, if you want to deposit money into the bank, so what we do? So let's say you want to deposit 10,000 Indian rupees. So we need to go to the bank and we need to give that cash to that bank employee. So they will deposit. They give receipt and deposit, right? So nowadays, no need to go to the bank. We have the machine, right? Just to carry your cash and insert into that machine. It will read that, and it will calculate that as 10,000, whatever you inserted, right? That 10,000 will be stored into one of the number inside the logic what they developed, right? So what it will do based on your account number, right? Before you keep the cash, it asks your account number to your bank account. whatever the cache you inserted, it will add, right? So all that is like so how in the background that is happening, there is some program it execute, right? So that's what we are developing here, those kind of things. Okay, so we're automating the real world, the manual things, right? Instead of giving to a bank employee and they deposit and all those things. So more flexibility, right? More automation we do with these programs. Okay. So now what I'm trying to explain. So as part of the OOPS concepts encapsulation, so it's like class or interface gives the program structure. Inside that you see the data and the methods. Okay, so method is like a reusable logic. So when we say we created the class, it's like we created a plan. So nothing will happen after creating the class. Object should be constructed, and so that in the class, whatever the variable you define, for all those things, the memory location will be allocated. Then whatever based on instructions you give, that data will fit into that memory and it applies some logic and give the result. So that's what will happen. Okay. So now, I mean, once we create the class, so we'll understand exactly how it works, right? So just on day-to-day again, to understand easily this encapsulation, it's like it is making the elements of a program into a single unit. So for example, let's say, right? So let's say, so this, we have a TV, right? Let's say TV. So for TV, inside TV, there are many things, many components, right? Motherboard, chips, and many things, which are many different elements are there, right? But everything as one unit. As a final product, we see a TV, right? We keep that somewhere and watch that. So it's like that encapsulation. Okay. So before we start writing that class, right? So let me explain about abstraction also. Then I'll create the class and show you how exactly it works. Okay. So abstraction, it decides the visibility of the elements in a program, right? It deals with the visibility of the elements in a program, right? So if you take the TV example, right? For TV, so what is the main thing we should be able to see to use that? The TV screen, right? Do we need to see anything else? Let's say I want to connect my laptop with the TV, right? There should be some plug where we can keep, right? So that should be visible. At least if you go to the back side of the TV, that should be there, right? So few things should be visible, maybe backside or so maybe front side the screen. Few things should not be visible. I don't bother about, so what are the chips available inside the TV, right? Some fan or something, whatever is there. I don't want to see those things, right? That should be inside that. No one should be able to see. But few things we should be able to see, right? So that, right? How, so that's like abstraction. Okay, so when you have the plan with some features, so which should be visible, which should not be visible. So that control we do through the abstraction. Okay, as part of the abstraction, so we use the access modifiers. Okay, different access modifiers to control the visibility. So one is private. protected, public, and the global. So these are the different the visibility levels within the program, right? So private, right? Private means, so the meaning is, so the thing is we create multiple classes, right? For so to develop a particular functionality, we might need multiple plans, and as a together it will run, and it is possible to achieve a particular feature functionality. Okay, so I mean this private, protected, these things deals the elements in the program, how exactly should be visible. Those should be visible only within that class, or the element can be accessible from some other class, right? Or is that element can be accessible as part of the integration from the external application? All that visibility, so we control here. Okay, so maybe to explain this, right, let me take one generic example, right? So let's say nowadays, you know, some communities where people stay, right? Let's say there is a gated community. Let's say there are 10 buildings. Each building is having 5 floors, and each floor is having 4 apartments, right? One big gated community. And you have a flat in that community. Let's say you have 2-bedroom flat in that community, right? So now in our flat, right? Your flat is like your private. It's not like anyone can enter, right? So your flat, again, within your flat. So maybe the bedrooms those are private. Protected means the related, maybe your relatives, your friends, whoever comes to your house, they can sit in hall or maybe, right, some places. So that is only for your friends or relatives, right? So when there is a related thing, so only for them only you want to provide access or something. So that level, right? Private means only within that. So protected means maybe related, right? So maybe relatives and other things, such kind of. So public means, so within the community, public means maybe let's say there is a gym, right? There is a maybe the common whatever, right, swimming pool or whatever is there. So all those things are common. So all the families in that community, they can go and use that facility. Those are like public access for the community people. Let's say in that community there is a shopping mall. That shopping mall is not only for the community people, even outside people who are not part of that community, they can also come and buy. So that's the global, right? Even outside. So our sales force is like that gated community, right? So the global means the other outside sales force, those guys also can come and access, right? So which kind of access you want to provide for your element? So those we control with these things. Okay, so that's the thing. Just to understand easily, that's the example. Let me create the program, then so really we see how it works. Okay, so with this basics, we are almost ready to create the class. So let me create the class and see how it works. Okay, before I start creating the Apex class, so any questions on understanding, anyone? So any confusion? Okay. So now, once we need to create the Apex class. So there are different places where we can create the Apex class. So once we log into the Salesforce, right, first we should be in the setup area. If you are not in the setup area, you need to click on this. So left side, search for Apex class. So click on Apex class. And from here, you create the Apex class. Right? This is one place where you can create the Apex class. So otherwise, we have the developer console, right? Already we opened that. From developer console also, you can create the Apex class. This is also one of the tool. So otherwise, there are some external tools like Visual Studio Code. Right? Visual Studio Code is from the Microsoft company, which is a open source tool, means it's free. So anyone can download and install Visual Studio Code. Yeah, so not Visual Studio. Visual Studio is for .NET development. Okay, so make sure that it is Visual Studio Code. So I'll also show you, right? In our upcoming sessions, I'll show you how we download, how we install, how we connect this one with Salesforce. All those things we see. Okay, so using this tool, we can create the Apex class. So how we create, I'll show you in our upcoming sessions. Most of our development we do with this tool. Okay, so these are the different options. Okay, it's up to you where you want to create, right? So the client won't bother about where you are developing, right? So whether you are satisfied the requirement or not, that's what they want. Okay, so if you are comfortable here, you can work here, right? If you are comfortable here, you can work here. But once you create, ultimately it stores in a table called Apex class, right? All our Apex code also store in a table called Apex class. Yeah, don't think that if you create here, we only modify here. It's not like that, right? If you create here, if you go here, here also it will be available. If you go here, from here also it will be available, right? It's just the place where you want to create. Okay, just understand. Yeah, I'll show all places where we create so that you will understand. But ultimately, we work more with this Visual Studio Code. Okay. Yeah. So now, so once you click here, so let me create our first program here. Click on New, and this is the place. Okay. Now we are writing our first class, right? First plan, right? Class is like, so when you say one gated community, there are many buildings. Maybe each building, I think some buildings they have a different plan, right? So each building should have a different plan. That means we need to create multiple. One plan is like one Apex class, right? And we combine together to form as one application. It's like that. For now, we are creating our first program. It's like one plan. So what you want to plan? So what you want to automate? Okay, so to make it easy for us, right? I'm taking one example. Let's automate a few things to calculate few things. So let's say we have the rectangle, right? Or let's say you are seeing a flat, right? So the flat, they are saying 30-40. 30-40 means what is that? So 30 feet, maybe. So 30. So I mean, based on the measurements, right? So square feet, right? 30-40. So 30 is the maybe width, 40 is the maybe the inside how it is, right? So we need to maybe multiply and get the full square feet. How exactly, right? When you say 30, 40, so 30 multiplied by 40, right? So that means the 1200 square feet is the total area of the land, right? So that calculation we want to do, let's say, right? So those kind of things we automate. That's what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So for us, let's say we are taking a rectangle shape. Okay. So when there is a rectangle shape, so based on the length of the rectangle, based on the breadth of that rectangle, right? What is the height of that? So based on that, we want to calculate what is the area of that rectangle, right? So and some calculations, let's say we want to do that. I want to automate. As soon as those measurements are provided, the logic should give the result. So what is the area of the rectangle, maybe perimeter of a rectangle, some of the calculations. Yeah, for that we are writing the program. So when we start the program should start with either class or interface. Yeah, first we deal with class, right? The first thing to write the program, so we need to start with either class or interface, right? And because we write multiple programs, each program should have a unique name to recognize, right? So we need to give some unique name. Okay, so let's say I'm giving the name as rectangle. That's the name of the plan, right? Maybe we need for triangle one more plan, right? So like that. Okay, so inside that we are going to write the logic. Keep the block like this. Okay, so now I want to save. So as soon as you try to save, what will happen? System will check for the syntax, right? Is it as per the program rules? This program is written or not? That's what they check, right? So I'm trying to save. When there is a syntax problem, we see the compilation error. That means there is a problem with the syntax and Salesforce won't allow to save this code. That's the meaning, right? Clicking on this compilation error means at the time of saving, whatever we get, those are errors, compilation errors. It's saying that top level type must have public or global visibility, right? Visibility things are these things, right? So private, protected. Private means the meaning is within the same class, right? Protected means within the same class and the related classes, right? Maybe parent class, something like that. When we say it is parent class, that is inheritance, one concept that time I'll explain. Okay, public means within the same class and the other classes in the Salesforce organization, right? Global means within Salesforce and also external platform, Java, .NET or whatever. From there also, if they want to look into our code and if we want to make our element visible, it should be global. Okay, so the thing is here what it is saying. So whenever we click on new and start creating the class, that should be either public or global. It should not be private, right? The inside things can be private, right? Let's say there is a building. Anyone can see that building. The inside things in the building, maybe your flat, those can be restricted. Which area can be visible, which area should be, right? So like that. So now when you click on new and creating something, that should be either public or global. Okay, so any one of that we have to mention. The thing is, if you don't mention any access modifier, the default access modifier is private, right? So because I'm saying class rectangle, but what is this access? I did not define. If you don't define, by default it is private. Okay, that's why it is throwing error. But the rule is the top level should have either global or public visibility, right? I'm keeping that in the comment. That slash means comment. After that, whatever you type, system won't consider that as a code. It won't check for the syntax for that, right? So just I kept that point, and we know that it should be public or global in order to save. Right now I'm saving. Now I think now it is saved, right? So that means this code is as per the syntax. So now inside this, so we need to define, right? To hold that length, to hold the breadth. So what we need to do to calculate area, what we need to do, all that logic we need to write. So since we don't have time, right? So we write that logic in our next class. Okay. So any questions so far? Is anyone any questions? So especially if you are from non-technical background, are you able to follow? So if you are not understanding, what is your question? So you can ask your questions here. So any questions? Yeah. So I mean, in case if you are not able to understand, you have to ask question. Otherwise, I think that you are understanding. If you ask question, if you say I am not understanding, I can do something to explain in some other way. Okay. So for today, I think we're done. So I'll share these notes in the recording. But from Monday, it is like let's so the meeting link will be changed, and so whoever pays for the development, you will get the meeting link. Okay, that's the process. Okay, so just I'll drop email. If I don't drop email, you can ping me in WhatsApp. Okay, so just check mail for the updated meeting link, and you can join on Monday. Right, our next session is on Monday as per US, Tuesday as per India. Right? Yeah. So thank you.